Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters. There are moments in life when you raise your hands in prayer and wonder if your words are being heard. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even years pass, and the thing you have been asking for still has not arrived. You watch others receive what you are praying for while you continue waiting. Slowly, questions begin to fill your heart. You ask yourself, why is my dua taking so long? You wonder whether your moment will ever come. But what if the delay itself is part of the miracle? What if what feels like silence is actually preparation? Human beings naturally want immediate answers. We want quick solutions to our problems, instant relief from pain, and fast results for our efforts. But life does not always move according to our timing. And perhaps that is where one of the biggest tests of faith begins. Sometimes Allah answers immediately. Sometimes the answer comes later. Sometimes what you are asking for is replaced with something better. And sometimes the waiting itself transforms you into the person you need to become before receiving what you asked for. Think about your own life. How many times have things happened differently from what you planned, only for you to realize later that the outcome was better? How many doors closed only to protect you from something you could not see? Human vision is limited. We see today. Allah sees the entire journey. There are people listening right now who feel tired of waiting, tired of making dua, tired of hoping, tired of telling themselves that things will improve. But perhaps your story is not ending where you think it is ending. Perhaps the chapter you are struggling through today is preparing you for something greater than you currently imagine. A miracle does not always arrive with sudden signs or dramatic moments. Sometimes miracles arrive quietly. Sometimes they appear through unexpected opportunities, changed hearts, new beginnings, or doors opening when you least expect them. The difficult part is remaining patient while you cannot yet see what is happening behind the scenes. So if you are carrying pain today, if you are waiting for answers today, if you feel like your prayers are delayed today, stay with this message. Because what you are experiencing right now may not be the end of your story. It may simply be the part where faith is being tested before blessings arrive. Sometimes the most painful part of making dua is not the problem itself. The hardest part is waiting. You ask Allah sincerely, believing with all your heart that things will change. Days pass, months pass, sometimes years pass, yet the situation remains the same. During these moments, people often begin questioning themselves. They wonder whether their prayers are being heard. They wonder whether they are doing something wrong. They wonder why answers seem delayed, while others appear to receive what they ask for quickly. The truth is that powerful duas often require powerful patience. Human beings naturally love quick results. We want immediate solutions because waiting feels uncomfortable. But the Quran teaches believers something important. Allah's wisdom is greater than human understanding. Sometimes what looks like delay from your perspective is actually preparation from Allah's side. Think about how people prepare for important things in life. Nobody builds strength overnight. Nobody becomes wise instantly. Nobody develops patience without experiencing situations that require patience. In the same way, some blessings require preparation before arrival. The Quran repeatedly teaches believers that Allah knows what we do not know. This means there may be things happening behind the scenes that you cannot currently understand. Perhaps the thing you are asking for is coming, but the timing is not right yet. Perhaps certain lessons still need to be learned. Perhaps certain doors need to close before better ones can open. Look at the stories of the prophets. Their journeys were filled with waiting. Prophet Yusuf experienced years of hardship before relief arrived. He went through separation, betrayal, loneliness, and prison before eventually reaching ease. Imagine if someone saw only the middle part of his story. They may think nothing good was coming. Yet Allah was preparing something greater throughout every difficult stage. Think about Prophet Zakaria. He continued making dua for many years. He did not stop because answers seemed delayed. His story teaches believers something beautiful. Delayed answers do not mean ignored prayers. One reason waiting becomes difficult is because humans focus heavily on visible results. We ask ourselves, why has nothing changed? But what if change is already happening where you cannot see it? Sometimes Allah changes your heart before changing your circumstances. Sometimes He builds your patience before opening doors. Sometimes He develops your character before giving you responsibilities. Many people later realize that had they received certain blessings earlier, they would not have appreciated them properly. Sometimes believers discover that the version of themselves making dua today is completely different from the version that first started praying. They became stronger, more grateful, more patient, more connected to Allah. Dua itself is not only about receiving things. Dua is also about connection. Every time you raise your hands, you remind yourself that your dependence belongs to Allah alone. Every sincere prayer strengthens faith, even when answers remain unseen. People often believe miracles must arrive dramatically. They imagine huge moments where everything suddenly changes overnight. But sometimes miracles happen quietly. Sometimes protection itself is a miracle. Sometimes redirection is a miracle. Sometimes surviving difficult seasons becomes the miracle. The Quran reminds believers not to despair from Allah's mercy because despair makes people stop hoping. And when hope disappears, people begin viewing temporary situations as permanent realities. You may be listening today while carrying worries nobody knows about. Maybe you have financial problems, maybe emotional pain, maybe family difficulties. Maybe unanswered questions about your future. Perhaps you are tired because you have been waiting too long. Remember this carefully. Waiting does not mean Allah forgot you. Delays do not mean rejection. Silence does not mean absence. Allah knows the prayers you say aloud and the prayers you only whisper inside your heart. Sometimes preparation feels frustrating because preparation rarely looks exciting. It looks like uncertainty. It looks like patience. It looks like repeating the same prayers. But often the biggest transformations happen during these seasons. Think about seeds planted underground. For a long time, nothing appears visible. Someone looking from the outside may assume nothing is happening. But underneath, roots are growing. Foundations are forming. Preparation is taking place. Perhaps your current waiting period is not empty. Perhaps roots are being built. Perhaps your heart is becoming stronger. Perhaps Allah is protecting you from things you cannot yet see. So continue making dua, even when answers seem delayed. Continue believing, even when fear appears. Continue trusting, because Allah's timing has always been more perfect than human timing. And if this reminder benefited you, subscribe to my channel for more reminders that strengthen faith, increase hope, and bring hearts closer to Allah. There are moments in life when you feel like nothing is changing. You pray, you work hard, you try again and again, yet the problems remain. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and sometimes the waiting becomes so long that your heart begins asking difficult questions. You wonder whether your prayers are reaching Allah. You wonder whether your situation will ever improve. You wonder whether things will always remain the same. These moments are difficult because human beings naturally want quick answers. We want to see results immediately. But faith becomes most powerful when trust continues, even when visible change has not yet arrived. The Quran repeatedly teaches believers that trust in Allah is not something reserved for easy days. Real trust appears during uncertainty. Anyone can feel strong when everything is going according to plan. Anyone can feel grateful when blessings are obvious. But the true test comes when life becomes confusing and you continue believing that Allah knows what you cannot see. Human beings are limited in knowledge. We see today, perhaps tomorrow, but Allah sees the entire journey. This is why the Quran reminds believers that Allah knows while you do not know. Sometimes people become frustrated because they believe their plans are perfect. They create timelines in their minds and expect life to follow those timelines exactly. When things happen differently, disappointment grows. But often what feels like delay is actually protection, preparation, or redirection. Look at the story of Prophet Musa. There were moments when situations looked impossible. When he stood before the sea with danger behind him, people around him believed there was no escape. From a human perspective, there seemed to be no solution. But trust means believing that Allah can create solutions even when you cannot imagine them yourself. The lesson is powerful because believers today face their own versions of impossible situations. Think about Maryam during difficult moments of fear and uncertainty. Think about the story of Prophet Ibrahim when he was tested repeatedly. These stories are repeated because believers continue facing fear, uncertainty, waiting, and confusion throughout every generation. One reason people struggle with trust is because they connect faith only with outcomes. They tell themselves, I will trust Allah if things improve. But true trust exists before outcomes appear. Trust means believing Allah is still caring for you even when life feels difficult. It means believing His wisdom continues even when you do not understand what is happening. Sometimes believers expect signs immediately. They expect every dua to produce visible results quickly. But change often happens quietly. Sometimes Allah changes your heart before changing your circumstances. Sometimes He gives strength before giving solutions. Sometimes He teaches lessons before opening doors. The Quran constantly reminds believers about patience, because patience and trust are connected. Patience does not mean doing nothing. Patience means continuing despite uncertainty. It means waking up every day and continuing your efforts while placing outcomes in Allah's hands. Many people become exhausted because they focus only on what has not happened yet. They count unanswered prayers, delayed opportunities, and closed doors. But sometimes, if you pause and reflect, you realize Allah has already protected you countless times without your knowledge. There are situations you never entered that may have harmed you. There are opportunities you missed that may not have been good for you. Human beings rarely notice protection because protection often appears invisible. Trusting Allah also means accepting that His timing is different from human timing. Human beings want things now. We want pain removed immediately. We want happiness quickly. But Allah created time itself. He knows when blessings should arrive. He knows when hearts are ready. He knows when circumstances align. Think about seeds planted in the ground. If someone planted a seed and dug it up every day asking why it had not grown yet, growth would never happen. Faith sometimes requires allowing time for what Allah is preparing. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean nothing is happening. There are people listening who may feel emotionally tired. Maybe you have been praying about finances, maybe relationships, maybe health, maybe opportunities, maybe personal struggles nobody knows about. Long periods of waiting can make people feel forgotten. But the Quran repeatedly reminds believers that Allah is aware of everything. Nothing escapes His knowledge. Not your tears, not your fears, not your silent prayers. Sometimes Allah delays visible change because invisible change is still happening. Perhaps your character is growing. Perhaps your dependence on Allah is becoming stronger. Perhaps patience is developing. These things are difficult to measure, which is why people sometimes underestimate them. One of the beautiful things about faith is that trust itself brings peace. Not because problems immediately disappear, but because believers know they are not carrying their burdens alone. Even during difficult moments, believers know there is wisdom beyond what they currently understand. You may not know why certain things happened. You may not understand every hardship. You may still have unanswered questions. But trust does not require complete understanding. Trust means believing that Allah's knowledge is greater than your own and continuing forward even when clarity has not fully arrived. And if this reminder benefited you, subscribe to this channel for more reminders that strengthen faith, increase hope, and help you stay connected to Allah during difficult times. There are moments in life when you feel like your prayers are staying in the sky without answers. You make dua repeatedly. You ask Allah with sincerity. You cry during difficult nights, hoping that maybe this time something will change. Yet days pass and nothing appears different. The problems remain. The waiting continues. The struggle feels heavy. In these moments, many people begin losing hope, not because they stop believing in Allah, but because they become tired of waiting. Human beings naturally want quick results. We live in a world where everything feels fast. Messages arrive instantly. Information appears instantly. Solutions are expected instantly. Because of this, people sometimes expect their duas to work according to their own timetable. But one of the greatest lessons the Quran teaches believers is that Allah's timing is perfect, even when it feels difficult to understand. Faith becomes strongest not when answers arrive immediately, but when you continue trusting while waiting. Anyone can feel hopeful after receiving good news. Anyone can feel strong when everything is working out. But the believer discovers the true meaning of trust when circumstances remain difficult and they still continue raising their hands in dua. The Quran repeatedly reminds believers not to lose hope in the mercy of Allah. This message appears again and again because Allah knows human beings naturally become discouraged. People become tired. Hearts become weak. Fear enters the mind. This is why hope itself becomes an act of worship. Think about the story of Prophet Yaqub. Imagine the years of separation, sadness, and uncertainty. Yet despite emotional pain and long periods of waiting, hope remained alive. He continued trusting Allah even when circumstances gave him every reason to feel hopeless. The lesson here is not simply about patience. It is about understanding that believers are never supposed to measure Allah's mercy according to temporary circumstances. Sometimes people believe that unanswered dua means Allah is not listening. But the Quran teaches something completely different. Allah is always aware. He hears every whispered prayer. He knows the words you speak and the worries you never tell anyone. The delay itself does not mean rejection. There are moments when believers ask for something sincerely, but what they are asking for may not be good for them at that exact moment. Human beings see one part of life, while Allah sees the complete picture. We make decisions based on limited knowledge. Allah's knowledge has no limits. Think about times in your own life when something you desperately wanted did not happen, only for you to later realize it protected you from pain. Think about opportunities that disappeared but eventually led you somewhere better. Many people discover later that what felt like disappointment was actually protection. One of the difficult realities of waiting is that shaitan often attacks during uncertainty. Negative thoughts appear. Doubts appear. People begin questioning whether anything will improve. They compare themselves with others. They wonder why others seem blessed while they continue struggling. Comparison is dangerous because every person is living a different test. Some people are tested through hardship. Others are tested through comfort. Some are tested through waiting. Others are tested through receiving things quickly. Only Allah understands the full story behind every life. The Quran teaches believers that ease comes with hardship. Notice carefully that Allah does not say hardship exists forever. Difficult chapters exist, but they are chapters, not entire stories. Sometimes when you are inside a difficult season, it feels endless because pain naturally makes time feel slower. There are people listening who may have been making the same dua for years. Maybe you are asking Allah for financial relief. Maybe you are asking for family peace. Maybe you are asking for opportunities, success, healing, forgiveness, or emotional peace. You may feel exhausted from waiting, but remember something important. Every sincere dua changes something, even if you cannot immediately see it. Sometimes dua changes circumstances. Sometimes it changes hearts. Sometimes it protects you from unseen harm. Sometimes it brings rewards beyond what you imagined. Think about how many blessings currently exist in your life that once felt impossible. Think about prayers from years ago that eventually became reality. Human beings often forget previous answers because current problems feel bigger. Trusting Allah does not mean pretending difficulties do not hurt. Even prophets experienced sadness, fear, and emotional pain. Trust means continuing despite those emotions. It means saying, Ya Allah, I do not understand everything happening right now, but I know you understand. There are moments when nothing seems to move externally, while internally enormous changes are happening. Patience develops quietly. Character develops quietly. Dependence on Allah develops quietly. Sometimes Allah prepares the believer before preparing the blessing. Imagine giving someone something enormous before they are ready to handle it. Sometimes preparation itself takes time. Sometimes the person asking for something must first become stronger emotionally, spiritually, or mentally before receiving it. The beautiful thing about hope is that it changes how people survive difficult seasons. A person without hope sees problems everywhere. A person with hope sees possibilities even during hardship. The Quran constantly reconnects believers to hope because hope keeps people moving when circumstances become difficult. There are people who nearly gave up right before things changed. There are people who believed doors were permanently closed, only to discover Allah was opening better doors. There are people who cried during one season and smiled during another season they never expected to reach. Perhaps right now you are living through the chapter that feels impossible. Perhaps your heart feels tired. Perhaps you are wondering whether your moment will ever come. But remember this carefully. Allah does not ask believers to know the future. He asks believers to trust Him with the future. Keep making dua even when emotions tell you otherwise. Keep believing even when fear becomes loud. Keep asking Allah because no sincere prayer is ever wasted. Your waiting is not invisible. Your tears are not invisible. Your struggles are not invisible. And maybe today, while listening to this reminder, you needed this message more than you realize. Maybe your answer has not arrived because your story is still being written. Maybe what feels delayed is simply being prepared in a way you cannot yet understand. So continue raising your hands. Continue trusting Allah's wisdom. Continue hoping even when hope feels difficult. Because sometimes the miracle you are waiting for is already moving toward you while you are still learning patience. And if this reminder brought hope to your heart, subscribe to my channel for more reminders that strengthen faith, increase hope, and help you stay closer to Allah during every season of life.